All right. Hi, everybody. Just want to welcome you back to the blog this week. And this is a very special interview for me because I have not only a wonderful author here with me, Kelly Goshorn, but she is a dear friend. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Dina. Thanks for having me today.
I'm happy to. Kelly works and serves on the ACFW Virginia Board of Directors with me. She was actually the president for 4 years, and I was the secretary 3 of those years. And now, I'm trying to fill her shoes as president, and my goodness,
You're doing a fantastic
yeah.
job.
So
Fantastic job. We're
ready
so
for,
blessed to have you.
next year for you to come back as president. Anyway, so enough of that, but I just want to turn it over to you right now and let you introduce yourself to people who are watching who don't know you.
Mm,
Just tell a little bit about you and your family.
oh, thank you. Well, I am a native Virginian. I've lived in Virginia most of my life, except for a brief um, visit to I call it the foreign country of California, a little crazy out there. And that was, I don't know, 30 years ago. Other than that, I've pretty much lived most of my life right here in Loudoun County, Virginia. And I'm married 33 years, and I have three wonderful adult children. My daughter Maddie is 30. She's a voice actress, and she's been writing scripts and trying to produce short films out in California. And my middle son, Michael, is 27, and he's studied game design. And he's at home right now. He has some disabilities, some late, what term I want we found out kind of late as a young adult that he is actually on the spectrum. So he's had a little trouble navigating that, and he's home with us right now. And then my youngest son is 25, and he's just decided he's going to try to finish that college degree he started a few years ago.
Nice.
So they're all busy and active and doing things. And I have a little corgi. If you follow me on social media, you've probably seen Levi. He's my baby. I like to spoil him.
Yeah. And it sounds
Mm.
like I hear a lot of creativity, even in your family, like in
Yeah.
your kids. And just a plug for Maddie, she does book trailers. So any authors who are watching this,
Yeah.
Maddie
Yeah.
Goshorn.
She's done a couple audiobooks. She just finished her first fiction book, A Far Way to Run by Lori Altabomber. So I'm going to download that on vacation and listen to her. I've read the book, but now I'm going to listen to it with
Yeah, and listen to
Maddie
your
doing the
daughter read the book.
voices.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
that's going to be fun. Yeah. And my husband does theater too.
Yeah.
So we
So
kind of
just
have
a
a little
whole,
bit of everything going on.
yeah, a lot of creativity there. Some runs in the genes. So amid all of your busyness, I know because I know you how crazy life is and how much is going on. Do you have time at all for any hobbies? And
Well, our biggest hobby is one that I share with you and your family, Dina. We like to play board games. So my husband's a big board gamer. When we were first married, we would play these games that were ridiculous military warfare games, and they were so complicated. The rule books looked like magazines,
yeah,
and I would have to put cheat sheets on the wall behind him so that I could remember things and not ask him because I'd give away, my strategy. But now we have all these great like Euro style board games that we like to play. So today's Friday, every Friday night we have game night, um, date night,
yeah.
and we usually make homemade pizza and play a
Mm-hmm.
board game and just have a good time. Sometimes we do that on Sunday. We have a friend in our small group that likes to play, so sometimes he'll come. My kids like to play, so usually when the kids are home, we all play something together.
Yeah, our
Um,
youngest, our son got us into the board games and it took off. It's
mhm.
like we got this big cabinet now in Herschel's office that has all the games
You don't even
in
want to know how
there.
many my husband has.
It's,
It's 100. He has hundreds. It's ridiculous, but
yeah,
they're fun, and we love playing them. And he well, I should say I grew up in a big family, big Irish family, and we would always play cards. We'd go to grandma's, would play cards. Cards was a big thing. So I think I've always liked games. I don't do as much card playing now as I would like, but
same
yeah.
here. grow up playing rook with my parents, and then played a lot of spades, canasta, like
Yeah, love
cards.
those games. And yeah, my grandmother used to say there were two books that were important, the Holy Bible and Hoyle. So if you don't know what Hoyle is, that's the book of all the game rules, the official game rules for card games. So
Gosh, that's funny.
depending on the situation, is the one grandma had with her.
Yeah. Well, we could talk about every game we love and all the different things, but we're here to talk about writing. So let's,
Okay. Love
I'm gonna,
talking about writing.
so we're going to switch gears a little bit, and you just tell us a little bit about your writing journey, like how that started and when, and kind of a condensed version of that to where you are now.
Okay, so when I was a little girl, I always wanted to be a teacher. And so I thought that's what I would do forever, was to be a teacher. And after my daughter was born, I decided to stay home with her, and which kind of surprised me. I always thought I would have a teaching job and raise my family. And so after my kids were grown, and I had done an in-home daycare while they were little to bring in income. And I kind of got complacent. And so I just, instead of going back and getting a teaching job, I just thought, well, I'll just keep doing in-home daycare because it's what I'm doing. And it had been so long and all the excuses. And then it came a point where it just, I was feeling stuck, not really fulfilled anymore. So I started praying about what's next. But I had a feeling the teaching door was not it. But I prayed for something to have a passion for, like teaching, where I felt like God could use me and reaching people. And I did not expect it to be writing at all. I did not see that coming. But I started tinkering with writing. This is kind of odd. After my sister passed away from breast cancer, and I wrote her obituary, not her obituary, her
Eulogy.
thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. Her eulogy, and just playing with the words and trying to get them to say exactly what I wanted to tell people about my sister. And I just started remembering how I always liked doing that in my college classes. I was a history major, social studies major, and then a master's in history education. So lots and lots of research papers. And I always loved playing with the words, but never fiction. In fact, I didn't think I was very creative. So that's funny that you see that in our family now, because I would have said I was a very uncreative person. And I think God he brought this into my life. He started nudging me to write. I didn't know it at the time that he was nudging me, but I look back and I see that, and I was just playing around with it because I love to read. And my youngest son was writing, he was like in 5th grade, and he would just always have paper and write stories. And I thought, well, I like to read, and I'm going to write a story about a mail order bride, because I just am fascinated with that. And my husband read it, and he said I should write our story, which is the first book I had published, A Love Restored. And when I started writing our story is when the passion just flowed into the story. I mean, I was all the time reading a craft book, writing. I wasn't even thinking about publication. I just needed to write the story the best it could. And then after all that investment, it seemed like, okay, well, maybe I'll see if I can. I mean, it was just a process. And at some point in there, I realized this was the answer of the 3 years of prayer for a new passion, a new direction.
Nice.
So that's where I'm at. And God, as long as God will use me this way, I love it. I love writing, being able to be used by him to write his stories, that he wants to tell.
Right. And because you're a history buff and you love history, then you write historicals, right?
Yeah, I write historical romance because, well, I am a romantic at heart very much, but I think I fell in love with history watching Little House on TV and the Waltons. And
two of my faves.
Oh man, the day that Laura and Almanzo met and she called him manly.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. I had no idea. I was probably like in 8th or I don't know what grade. I'm just about her age, so I'm not sure what year that was. Late 70s probably. So I was probably in 7th or 8th grade, and I was just like, what is this? Like, I think I fell in love with, yeah, historical romance right there. And then I found Jeanette Oak and
Yeah,
I was off to the races, never looked back.
awesome. So tell us a little bit about how you incorporate Christ and hope into your stories, because you're talking about wanting to write for God and
Right.
those stories. Yeah.
It's interesting because the first spark is usually the idea of the story, something that interests me about telling the story. And honestly, when I start writing, I'm not always sure what that message or theme is. I think God reveals it to me as I write. And a lot of times it's something, not always, but a lot of times it's something that in my own life, I've either already had an experience with and learned this lesson, and he's using me to share that experience, or it's something I need to learn. So try to incorporate that in the characters, and that no matter what situations we're going through, that we have the hope in Christ and in the message of the cross. So I love having a character whose relationship with God is either non-existent or troubled by because of circumstances they have distanced from God. And because I realize that my audience is primarily a Christian audience, so I love showing that reader that Christ is always, no matter what we do, we think we've blown it, whether it's an act of sin or whether it's we've gotten lazy maybe in our spiritual life or whatever, that we can turn that corner, right? And there's hope in the gospel. And so try to incorporate some scripture, layer it in so nobody feels beaten over the head, but
Yeah.
hopefully leaving readers feeling that encouraged. I mean, that's what I love about Christian fiction. I walk away feeling encouraged about my journey.
Well, and I think characters that you can relate to, that can experience, even in historicals, they have the same emotions, the same struggles, and all those kind of things that we can relate to. So let's talk about the book that's coming out. What's the date of the launch?
The book releases October 3rd from Scribnings Press, and it's called Chiseled on the Heart. The full title is Chiseled on the Heart, a Christmas Legacy Novella Collection. So it's quite a mouthful. So Chiseled on the Heart will do, but it's 4 stories that follow different generations of the Hawkins family, who each carve a piece of an heirloom nativity set. So I thought that was kind of a neat idea. Cynthia Romer, one of the authors in the collection, she came up with that idea, and she was the one that pulled the 4 of us together to write these stories. And so we had a lot of fun figuring out who was going to add which pieces and the timeline, and all of the stories are prominent in Virginia, in Loudoun County, here where I live.
Okay.
And I kind of got everyone to agree to that because there was a story I wanted to write about an event that happened here that I'd been itching to write a story about, to incorporate into the story.
Can you share what that event is, or is that
oh no, it's not a secret. It's not a book. What would you call spoiler?
Spoiler.
Yeah, so it's going to sound a little funny at first because it doesn't sound super Christmassy, but so a little bit of background. Loudoun County is a border county in Virginia, in a border state. So the next county over is West Virginia. So Loudoun seceded with Virginia from the Union, and then the next county over seceded from Virginia. So we have a lot of people in this area that were both Confederate or Union, living right here. We have a lot of Quakers here that they were anti-slavery, want to stay with the Union. And we had many Confederate families that were committed to Virginia and felt like that's where their loyalty lied. So on Christmas Eve, 1864, some Confederate soldiers stormed the home of the Anderson family in Taylorstown, Virginia, and shot and killed Lemon Anderson, who was a Union soldier, and he died there in his mother's arms with his fiance looking on. So it's a very tragic event. Doesn't sound very Christmassy. but it's the catalyst for my story. So my story takes place 3 years later. And I have my fictional heroine. I have made her the brother of the person who did the shooting, and I have my fictional hero being the friend of the fellow who died of Fleming. So it's I wanted to kind of look at what that community would look like. What would it take to bring healing? You know, in Loudon, these fellows that made up these we have independent rangers. And what that means is they didn't go. They weren't part of troops that went to Gettysburg. They didn't go to Shiloh. They stayed right here and fought these little raiding battles on each other, because we had Confederate raiders that would harass the Union troops and harass the Quaker families. So they got permission to raise their own troops to defend the area and to try to stop these Confederate bands from harassing the Union soldiers as they moved through the Shenandoah Valley. So these troops were actually, some of them were Quakers, which people find very interesting because Quakers are known to be pacifists. But these men grew up together. They knew their families. They went to school together, church together, and then they were clashing right here. That had these skirmishes, and then they'd fade back into their farms, and then they would come out and cause havoc with one another, fight with one another. And so there's all this animosity and tension and things that were going on, and that's what kind of led to that shooting. So I kind of wanted to look into that story. What might that be like? What would that town look like in the aftermath of that? And so I that was the story I wanted to tell. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, and it's set around Christmas time.
Yes. So my story takes place 3 years later, and the heroine, again, she's with the family that her brother did the shooting. So they left the area, and I had her coming back. So she comes back with the idea of wanting to bring reconciliation to the town, to the friends. The war is over. And in my story, you know, they are not connecting the area. It took years for people generations really, for people to put the war behind them. And so to look at how can we start forgiving each other and forgiving ourselves for our actions or our inactions. And so my story deals a lot with forgiving yourself, trusting God, and letting go of bitterness. Because when we don't forgive, sometimes it seems like it's a grand gesture that somebody else doesn't deserve us to forgive them. But really, I think God is so insistent on us as his followers, as his disciples, to be forgiving, because it only hurts us. It separates us from him when we have this bitterness and anger for someone else, you know.
And that forgiveness sets us free.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. I mean, and who are we to hold a grudge? I mean, look, the most innocent, right, and undeserving person, you know, lay down their life for us. So it's hard. It's hard for us, I think, to let go of grudges and bitterness, but I think we are commanded to do it, and it's one of the marks, I think, of being a Christ disciple.
Well, when we truly humble ourselves before God and realize how very much he has forgiven us for, you know, far beyond what we would be required to forgive of someone who has wronged us, how can we not forgive? Right. So talk just a little bit about this collaborative process. Like I, as a writer, you know, I'm kind of new with this and like in my own little world doing my own thing. So the thought about working with a group of people on a project, I was like, I don't know.
This is my second novella collection. I had one come out earlier this year with Barber. That one's called Across the Shores. In this particular novella, as I mentioned earlier, Cynthia Romer is the one who pulled it together, who invited the four of us. The other authors are Candace West and Elaine Marie Cooper. And so it was really a lot of fun. We would get together through Zoom calls like this one and sort of talk about the time period we were going to write in, who wanted to add which piece to the nativity, the names that we were naming our characters. In my story, I don't have any actual appearances of previous characters, but previous characters are referenced. And the carving tools that the great grandfather started with are passed down through the family in the trunk. So that's kind of neat. You see some of those tie-overs and references. So it was a lot of fun to work together on that and figure out what our common themes were. Like, what does it look like? How is a family shaped by the faith that passes on? So a lot of times we don't get to see the fruit of that. Right now, not all of my grown children are walking with the Lord, even though they have been raised in a Christian home. And so I may not get to see all of the fruit of that, but I think that it will yield fruit. I believe that it will yield fruit in their lives and in the lives of any children that they may have. I'm not a grandma yet. But so I think that was interesting to see how that faith, because when my character turns his back on all of that because of his bitterness, if that's still in Wyatt, and he really cannot deny it. So he just needed a little help from the heroine Madeline to kind of turn him back to what he knows and what is really true, what he knows to be truth, and what is an integral part of him because it's been passed down through the generations,
Right.
Um,
So the last question about the book, what do you hope that readers are going to take away from this when they get to the end of your story? You want them to feel or think what?
I think Christmas gives us this great opportunity, right? Hope has come to the world through the Christ child, and that gift is available to every person. And I think that hopefully through the collection and through my particular story, the Christmas carving, I hope that people will come to realize that no matter what is going on in their life, whatever trials, suffering, hardships they may feel, that gift is always available to them, even walk away from it. Like I mentioned, not all my adult children are walking with the Lord right now, but we can all come back to that. We can all lay our bitterness and our struggles and our sin at the foot of the cross. There's great reconciliation there, and that is the gift of Christmas. That is the hope of Christmas. So I hope that readers, walk away more committed to choosing, bitterness. Kindness over bitterness. Let's the animosity. There's so much of that in the world right now.
Yes.
So
yeah, that's a great lesson for all of us to take, and I'm looking forward to reading it.
oh, thank you.
I'm I appreciate you for coming on and sharing with everybody, and I hope this goes far and wide. Share, everybody,
Oh.
share the post so everybody
Thank
can
you.
hear about this novella collection and grab a copy and get ready for Christmas,
Thank you.
pointing us to our Savior. I know you're doing a giveaway also
Yeah.
on the blog, so that information will be in the post, and this is actually going to post going live on October the 4th, the day after
Oh.
launch. So the book will be out in the world, this post, and it's posting on my birthday, so
that's a double good blessing there.
double
That's
blessing.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So you have something else in the works, like quickly as we wrap this up?
I don't have anything under contract right now. I have a standalone and another novella collection proposal with Barber that I'm waiting to hear about. And
Nice.
I'm working on a story now, a rough draft of a story about a mail order groom. We'll leave it at that.
A little twist.
Yeah, looking for those little things. So yeah, and the story has a little bit of a you've got mail feel to it.
Okay.
If you like you've got mail, it might be something you'll enjoy.
Well, I hope everybody will go to Kelly's website and check out the social media links. And her book, A Love Restored, was the first book she had published based on her relationship with her husband. So if you haven't read that, I recommend that one to you as
Oh,
well.
thank you, Dina.
All right, so Kelly, sadly, our time is up. I know, and we both know we could sit and talk all day long.
That went fast, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, thanks for sharing. And
Thank you.
like I said, I'm really excited for you and this path that you're on and the doors that God has opened. And I'm looking forward to seeing what's next.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, the opportunity today.
Bye.
Bye.